Hi! Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and today I'm coming at you with my reading wrap up for July. I have been struggling with knowing what month we're in. Years going by, you know the drill. We're going to talk about the 22 books that I read in the month of July and what I thought about them. Ooh, a couple of them I might not talk about because I'm actually working on a bit of a... Ooh, this is so hard. So I'm working on some videos where some reviews are going to come out, so I don't want to talk about a lot of these. I might touch on some. We'll have to wait and see. But just know that I am behind on reading vlogs right now, so you'll be getting a lot here hopefully soon. I just have to read the things, but I'm kind of in a reading slump. So yeah, July kind of destroyed me. I had some duds for some reading. So let's just jump into it. The first thing that I read was Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Marie Griffin. It's said to be similar to A Little Shop of Horrors, which is a wonderful musical. It's so good. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it if you're unfamiliar, but it's basically about a sentient plant who wants to eat people. I think that this is told in an interesting way because we're getting the plant's perspective, and I think if you want to read this, you really need to listen to the audiobook because there's different narrators to very clearly distinguish who we're with and like what's going on, because this book is kind of confusing. I don't think it's bad. I think it was maybe ambitious or it just didn't work in the way that it maybe should have. I don't know. It just, something about it was not great. This was for the Literally Dead book club, so that was nice to hear other people's perspectives on it. It doesn't seem like it's the biggest win for a lot of people, and I will eventually be having a discussion with Richie and Aaliyah about this over on the Library Dwellers channel, but Aaliyah's been moving, and so getting her to sit down and chat for a while has been a little bit difficult, but yeah, we're going to talk about it eventually. I will say that it is kind of forgettable, but I am trying to remember stuff so I can talk about it in like an hour-long discussion. I think there was moments of it that I enjoyed, but overall I was kind of bored and uninterested, and it was just kind of like a mid-read. And then the next thing I read, so July had a lot of really fun readathons happening. Summerween. Can I remember them all? No, apparently not. Blackoween New War, Scallywagathon. There was like 2 others, maybe 3 others. And my goal was, because I was participating in a bunch of things, that I would be able to give you at the end of the month of July, reading month, of like all the things that happened, and I was vlogging my experience reading a lot of these things, and then I kind of decided to scrap that video. So now I have a lot of reviews that you'll just probably never see, and so I'm trying to remember right now the best of my abilities so that I can talk to you guys about them. But for Summerween, one of the things that I read was Hyde, the graphic novel. This is adapted from Kirsten White's Hyde, which I could have grabbed, but I didn't. And basically, it's a graphic novel form. I think that it's good. I think because it's visually pleasing to look at, I really like that like circus carnival setting. I think that was fun. It does not emphasize the romance nearly as much in the graphic novel version, but you're also missing some like important plot points that like you're jumping around because it's very shortened and condensed. But overall, I did still like it. I personally really enjoyed Hyde. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of campy for me. I didn't mind the direction that it headed. I liked the characters even if they were annoying or unlikable. So Hyde worked for me, so it was fun to read like a graphic novel adaptation that I didn't know existed. The next thing I read, which will have a full vlog coming to you soon. I have 2 books to finish for that video, but I read Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambao, and I think it was okay. I think everybody is correct in what they are saying. I think the magic system of this is fantastic. I think the cover of this is gorgeous. Hana and this man who kind of meet each other one day at random because of the magical pawn shop, which you see none of. They go on a mission to find her father, who kind of got disappeared and the place has been ransacked, and like, where is he? Hated the revelation that we get from that. That was upsetting to me. But I think that the romance was a little bit too insta-lovey, a little bit too quick, but the world building is very Studio Ghibli. I think this would make a great Studio Ghibli film if they were to make another one. I can see a lot of like the influences into this, but it just didn't quite hit the mark, mainly because the characters themselves were just kind of bland and boring and basic, and I didn't really care about the plot. I didn't care about finding her father, but there was some nice elements, and it was an overall pleasant read and listen. The next thing I read is also going to be in that video, and it was The Elf Witch by Jacqueline Gilmore, and it's really difficult because I really enjoyed the first half. This is following a young woman who has secret magical powers and has been trying to keep them under wraps from her family. She's like adopted or something, and she doesn't quite fit in with her family, and after her grandma passes away, there's a new law that's enforced, and basically the queen is like, I want all the most powerful people to come to my academy, which is incredibly deadly, compete in trials, but really it's like, take these tests. If you pass, you get to work for the queen, and you have like high standing, like you're really set up for life, but also like you have to do the queen's bidding, or you die. And basically her sister has all of these magical markings, and therefore she's the one that's supposed to go, but they trade places, so she doesn't really fit in, but of course she thrives in this economy. And I really enjoyed the first half. I liked getting to know the characters, how betrayal and cunning everybody is and does, and I liked the direction that it was headed. I liked the political intrigue and the like spying and everything. It just, there was a lot to it that I was liking. And then the direction changes with the romance and a new alliance, and I didn't like the change that we took. The romance was icky. He was just so mean and so gross, and I don't think that if I continued in the series, I would feel that there was a redemption arc for him, and I think that's a really hard sell when, like, you make your male love interest so unlikable that it's like, why would I root for this relationship? Why would I want this to happen? So that was kind of unfortunate, but the first half I enjoyed. So the next thing I read was With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. This is his Train Locked Room Mystery, Agatha Christie retelling, influence, whatever. I didn't like it. I know. I'm usually pretty forgiving with Riley Sager. I usually rate him a little bit higher than maybe I normally would, because usually, even if there's a bit of a bad time, say like Survive the Night stupidity just going on, it's still fun enough, and the memories of reading with a book club and having these discussions, like usually my memories of it are fond, but unfortunately With a Vengeance was bland and boring, and I just didn't care. It's like, why did there have to be a Nazi? Like, why did we have to make these decisions? A lot of it requires a lot of belief being suspended. It's not a serious book. It's not meant to be serious, but I didn't know the tone that we were striving for because I listened to the audiobook, and I think the audiobook took it more serious than the actual book itself would have. So unfortunately, it didn't work for me. I think the audiobook kind of was a hinder to the experience, and it was just kind of like, meh. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't believe any of the circumstances we were in. It's all about this girl who's like, I'm gonna avenge my dead family because of this rich man, and I'm gonna invite all these people who were involved onto this train, and it's a one-way trip to Chicago, and once we get to Chicago, the FBI is waiting for them, and then of course like murder ensues, and like a mystery happens, and blah blah blah. It wasn't surprising, unfortunately. Like, I didn't necessarily see certain things coming, and every once in a while I felt a little gagged, but for the most part it just was boring and bland. Like, any reveal we got, I was like, sure, that makes sense. Like, it wasn't surprising, but it wasn't like a fun twist either, so I was kind of just let down by it, unfortunately. Okay, the next 4 reads I read in 24 hours and during Scallywagathon, which is like a pirate themed adventure type of readathon. Doesn't matter. Basically, there was a 24-hour readathon where Ali was reading The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi. During that 24 hours, I was reading different things, and I was kind of like popping in and out of the stream. So the first thing I read for that video was 5 Burken Blains by Mai Corland. Oh my gosh. And unfortunately, I had a lot more problems with this than I had wins, and I think I gave this like 2 stars in the end. It was really disappointing. I was really hyped for it. She's a chunky fantasy. She's a romantasy, I should say. And it's romance first, 1000%. Everybody's coupling up. Everybody has a distinct partner. Everybody's dating. And it's so much of the focus of the book that it made it bad. I think that if you took a lot of that out and you just had a bunch of these criminals coming together to work on a assassination attempt on the emperor, I think like that alone is a very interesting and fun read. And I think if these were all slow burn romances, like one's a second chance, one's an enemies to lovers, one's another thing, it just felt very like, I am writing tropes, and everything needs to have a trope. Everything needs to fit in this like nice little marketing box, and it just didn't feel authentic, and I was just let down by it overall. But I don't think it's terrible. I do want to see what happens in the sequel, which might be a bad idea. I don't know yet. I'm hoping this author has improved and grown since this first book. I don't necessarily trust Red Tower a lot, especially when it comes to like the editing of things. So I don't necessarily want to say that this author doesn't have potential or hope in the future. So I am excited to pick up the sequel, especially because this one leaves off in a very interesting way. I think like once the assassination attempt begins, like that part of the like heist, whatever you want to call it, the climax of the book, once that happens and the romances were like basically laid to rest and like not talked about, I was hooked. I was really into it. The ending was phenomenal in comparison to the rest of this book. So I think if the sequel continues with maybe a little bit less romance, I might enjoy it. So I will give it a chance, but this one was a letdown. The next letdown, was that I listened to The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This was an anticipated release. I was super hyped for it. I was like, I'm gonna love this. It's cannibalism, weird girl horror, and I like cannibalism books. I'll say it. I really enjoy my horror books have some cannibalism. I think it's a really interesting take, and I think it can have like fun commentary and metaphors and whatnot. And I think the metaphor for this one just being like love didn't quite do it for me. I think it was a bit too modern. I think that I much preferred reading The Bog Wife because that was actually atmospheric. I just felt a lot of inconsistencies with Lucy Rose's writing, being like, they live in the forest, secluded from everybody, but also you can see the road out the window. It just like, there was just like some weird things that I was like, I just don't get it. I don't like it. The characters and plot themselves, we were following a child, and that's not my favorite lens for horror, I'm learning. I don't really want a coming of age story in my horror books. I don't really want the perspective of a child who's like maybe going through something or just like is kind of dumb and doesn't have life experience, and it feels kind of like a cop-out for good writing to be like, oh well, there's plot holes because it's a kid and they don't know any better, and it just isn't something that worked for me. I don't think the writing was horrible, but it definitely was not my favorite, and I just, by the end, I was like, I don't care what happens to these characters. There's like 3 main players in the book, and I never had an interest in what could happen to them. It just didn't hit. But you know what did hit? God, these segues. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Why did this take me so long to read? I was so hesitant about this for so long. This was, I believe, released last year. Yes. And it was a pick for the Literally Dead Book Club, which I almost always participate in. I'm pretty decent at staying on top. I usually miss like maybe 1 or 2 a month and then catch up later. Why didn't I read this at the time? I love this. This was, I think, 4.5 stars. I adored this so much. So basically this is, how do I explain it? It's basically as if being a slasher is a paranormal being on its own. Like there's specific things that have to happen that only happen to a slasher, and it's destiny, it's fate, and it's so fun and unserious while still saying a lot and having like really deep, meaningful connections to these characters. I was very invested from the beginning, which is funny because I started this a couple months ago maybe, and I put it down after like a few pages. I was like, I'll pick it up later. I just wasn't in the mood, and so I'm glad that the mood struck, and I loved this as much as I did. It really hit. I instantly bought the Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay because I think they're gonna kind of some similarities, hopefully, and I will like them both equally. But yeah, this one hit so hard. I loved, what's his name? Oh my goodness. Tolly and Amber. What phenomenal characters. Amber was such a wonderful best friend. I would love to see this turned into a film. Out of all the Stephen Graham Jones I have read, this and maybe The Babysitter Lives would be like the best movie adaptations, but I did really enjoy this. I love the characters, I love the style that it's written in, I love the narrator. Like, it's just the way that it was told was very well done, as most Stephen Graham Jones is. He does just seem to be the author for me for the most part. Some of his older works may be hit or miss, but I did really like this, and I'm so happy I read it. And the next one that I had to close out my 24-hour readathon was I finished the second half of Eclipse of Eclipse of the Crown by A.K. Caggiano, which is the end of the Villains and Virtues trilogy, and I really liked it. It's hard because I loved the first one. It was laugh out loud funny. I loved the second one because I love the characters so much. I love this like quest adventure journey that they go on, and I really liked the third one because it got steamy and it just got a little bit more intense and a little more serious between our characters especially, and I really liked that. I am so excited to continue with like the spinoff following different couples because I think I'm gonna love that. I just overall love this series. It's one of the highlights of my year, and I'm so happy to have read it. And I'm happy that I finally finished. I was kind of putting this off for a while, and I think I was in the middle of reading it for like a month, which is too long. But I think this is also like when I maybe noticed that I was like maybe falling into a little bit of a slump and just like wasn't trying to acknowledge it. But this is just like overall one of my best series of the year. It ended strong. I liked how it concluded. I think it did a great job. So Eclipse of the Crown, wonderful job. The next thing I read was Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. This is the 4th book in the Red Rising saga. This is a 10-year future arc that we are on, and it was good, but it wasn't great. I really struggled with having to get to know the new characters because we're not only just following Darrow anymore, and we're not always seeing the core cast, who I have such love and fondness for, that I was kind of bummed to like have to get to know new characters and like see the world in a different way, and it just like didn't hit as hard as I wanted it to. I think just because also like these are so chunky, they're quite dense, there's a lot of like politics and war going on, which isn't necessarily a negative for me, but it also in this context didn't hit quite as hard. I think that there's always important takeaways. I think that these are very relevant to our current times, and I don't think it'll stop being relevant anytime soon either, unfortunately. And I think it just says a lot. I love the quotes. I love Pierce Brown's writing. I am excited to continue, but we're waiting for Eliza to catch up. So then we're going to jump into Dark Age a little bit later. Maybe this year, maybe early next year. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm going to have to do a little like recapping of this for my friends because there's just a lot that happens, and I didn't care about probably 50% of the books because of the perspectives we were in. But yeah, Pierce Brown, I don't think he can do wrong. I think he's a wonderful writer. I think there's a reason everybody enjoys his works. I just wish that this one hit a little bit harder, and maybe because I was slumping, that was part of the case, but it is what it is. I am excited to continue in the series eventually. The next thing I read was How to Survive a Horror Story by Mallory Arnold. This is, I believe, a debut? Yes, this is a debut. And it's fun. It's silly. It's wacky. It's not to be taken serious. It is just a fun horror novel. It is similar to The Writer's Retreat and anything else of a similar premise. Basically, it's similar to You Were Fatally Invited. Anything that's like inviting authors to a secluded island or house and mischief begins. It's the same type of setup. We have a bunch of authors who are coming together for the, I believe, reading of a will. And they're all like, oh, we're gonna get stuff. And they don't all super know each other well. And then it becomes like an escape room in this house. And then people start dying. It was so fun. It was so silly. It was not like critiquing society in any ways. It was just like a fun time. And I think it's a good palate cleanser. I think it was a nice listen. I think it was overall a good time, but nothing like super strong takeaway. Oh, the next thing I listened to was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. This is the author of Lone Women, which I've always like kind of been interested. I just don't think I would like it, so I don't want to even bother trying it because I don't love a historical, and it just seems like it might be a little slow, but the reviews are so positive that I'm like tempted. But the Ballad of Black Tom is apparently an H.P. Lovecraft retelling, which I didn't know going into it. It wasn't until I finished it and I read the reviews. I think that it's told in a very interesting way. I like what it was doing, what it was saying, how it was flipping this retelling on its head and like having these discussions. I think the discussions of like police brutality were really important and great. But at the same time, I didn't care so much about the characters. It's very historical. I think it was set in Harlem 1920s-ish. It's short, thank God. It's a novella, so I think like it does what it sets out to do. Well, it just didn't hit for me because I didn't know the source material. I didn't love the second half quite as much, but it was definitely an interesting read, and I can understand why so many people like it. I think it was well written. I think the writing style was great. It just didn't work for me, unfortunately, and I'm really bummed about it because it seems like something everybody loves. The next thing I listened to was The Sirens by Amelia Hart. Now, this surprisingly did not make it into the Goodreads Best of So Far historical category, which I found kind of interesting. This is a story of sisterhood. It's following, I guess, 3 timelines. You've got the past following these 2 twins that are sailing from Ireland to Australia on a boat, and like things are kind of murky and not great. And then you have the current timeline of, I only remember Mary. There was other names. I don't remember them. I'm so sorry. We're following a young woman whose sister has gone missing, and she's like interested in learning more about that and like what's happened to her. And then we get the sister's diary entries and like her perspective of what she was going through with like a student-teacher relationship and like the potentially not good things that she was getting into. I think that this was an interesting book. I don't have necessarily any problems with it. I definitely like this more than Wayward. I hated Wayward. And so I wanted to give this one a try. It's mermaids, it's oceanic, it's very Australian coded because the author's from Australia. But it wasn't the most memorable story. I really liked what we were saying about the sisterhoods, and I think if we got rid of the twins' previous backstory that I did not care about whatsoever and just focused on our current day sisters and like that story, I think it could have been interesting. I think there could have been more discussion on like the student-teacher relationship. I think we could have dived further into that mystery, because the mystery plot of it, especially towards the end, I was really interested in, but the rest kind of fell a little bit flat for me. But I do recommend this. I think a lot of people could enjoy this. I think it just needs to find its right audience. But yeah, the Sirens. It's not really one I have a whole lot to say about, but the next thing I read was phenomenal, and it gave me a whole rant review about how much I can't stand internet culture as much as I love being on the internet. So I read the Amazon original Just a Girl by Alyssa Cole, an author who I really enjoy their thrillers, really. I really enjoy their work. And so I read Just a Girl, and it's all about a young girl who, during COVID, has a TikTok where she talks about cooking and a bit of her family life and dating and just, you know, a day-to-day, like, vlog, study sessions, whatever. And that's normal. I'm on the internet. I do similar things. And basically, she rejected this guy on a dating app because he asked some inappropriate questions, and then it set off a whole slew of internet harassment to real-life harassment to doxing to swatting to just, like, absolute insane behavior. And you're getting to see a lot of, like, the people's critiques on it. It's all told in, like, Discord messages and captions of, like, the videos and Instagram posts. Like, it's all told in that type of forum style, text message style. So if that bothers you, I would say skip this, but if you don't mind that, it's really good. I read some of the reviews because I finished it. I was heated. I read reviews of people that didn't like it, and it just made me so mad. So I gave you a whole rant review, but I really like the book. I did not spoil it in my video. I talk a lot about what happens, but not necessarily how it concludes. So it's very short if you're interested in checking it out. I do recommend it a lot. The next thing that I listened to was Cursed Cocktails by S.L. Rowland. This is a Legends and Lattes Walmart version. I don't know, sorry. It's kind of mean, but it is basically Legends and Lattes, but instead of sapphic women, you've got gay men, and they're opening a bar instead of a cafe. But you're still seeing the same, like, trying new ingredients and recipes. I would say that I did like this equally as much. It's got the same type of stakes going on. Like, they are super comparable. So if you love Legends and Lattes and you're wanting the same type of cozy, familiar vibes, but a little different flavor, I would definitely try this. But I don't love a cozy book. It's not necessarily for me. I think that the romance was sweet. I think that the world building was cool. It felt like another D&D downtime story. So I would recommend it to people who are interested in it, but it's just like, I'm not the right targeted audience for it, unfortunately. But I think it was just like simply a fine read. I had no issues. I was able to listen to the audiobook from my library, so it was great. But yeah, I basically just picked this up because it was previously a SPIFBO finalist or contestant, I'm not really sure which, but I needed to knock it out for the hardest reading challenge ever for 1.0. Anywho, the next thing that I read also got a whole rant review that you can watch on my channel. I made my goal! Wow! I read 150 books this year so far, and this was my scavenger hunt to pick my 150th goal. And unfortunately, I really despise this book. So if you're curious on all of my thoughts, mostly spoiler free, but a couple things that might, you know, give you a lot of information, all the triggers, all the things that really bothered me with these characters, because it's a character driven story, which I don't necessarily love. Yeah, this one made me very angry though. Like, I just had a lot of rage in my soul from reading this. It just pissed me off in a lot of ways. I did not find it to be very good for my tastes. I had a lot of issues with it. So if you're curious about all of those things, you can go watch that video. But basically the gist of this is that we are following 3 different men and their perspectives of the runaway king who got into a civil war because of his ex-husband, now current, I guess, king, started a coup against him because the shift in their power dynamics changed and that caused a coup. So one of them was a coward and fled, while the other one is still ruling with an iron thumb and is not doing great things, is now experimenting with the holy science to create an army. And then you have the third perspective, and he is a spy master for the coward king and is basically going to try and infiltrate the current king to spy, as you would as a spy master. There's no plot in this. It is all character driven. It is really dark, so please, this book does not give proper trigger warnings, and I need everybody to know them before picking this up, because it was a very hard book to stomach. It was just very uncomfortable read, so it didn't work for me. But if you're interested in it, I want you to know ahead of time that you need to, you know, look into this one a little bit more carefully. But yeah, I did not enjoy it. I ended up giving that 1 star. And then the last thing that I read, which luckily was like a nice palate cleanser from some of these bad books, but I listened to This Princess Kills Monsters by Rye Herman, and this is so fun. I highly recommend this. This first came on my radar because of Allie Do Is a Read, and I really enjoyed this. It's funny. It's a very fun take on the like fairy tale side of things. You have our main character who lives just like the most fairy tale life you could ever think of. Like, think of every Disney princess ever. She has an evil stepmom. Her dad is dead. Her mom is dead. She's a princess, but like kind of not. She's got like this weird bloodline. She has just the most wacky experiences, and she comes to this new, she thinks she's in an arranged marriage. So she's on her way through the forest to meet her new potential husband, and she meets these huntsmen along the way, and it just gets wacky and silly and fun, and I loved it seriously so much. It was so fun. But there was a moment where she was like, it's normal to be locked into a tower for many years and like barely have social interactions, and like you learn how to paint and grow out your hair, right? And everyone's like, no, that's not normal. Like, it's so fun. It's so kooky. I highly recommend it. It was such a nice way to end my month, a nice palate cleanser to just like have a fun time. I don't know, I might read this again in the future. It was just very fun, and I really recommend it. So that was a nice little end to my month. It is now August, and I've read 1 full-length novel, and I read 5 very, very short novellas to just like be like, look, Sam, you've read some things this month. Like, it's okay if you take it a little easy. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm having a hard time reading and picking up books and enjoying books. Even books that I think I'm gonna like, I'm just kind of not in the mood. So I'm trying to supplement by doing other activities, playing games, watching stuff. I'm watching a lot of Fantasy High on Dropout TV. I'm playing Expedition 33. We're about to go fight the Paintress. We're almost done with Act 2, I think. But yeah, I'm just trying to supplement with other fun things in my life, listening to music again, to just try and kick this slump's butt. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. If you made it to the end of this video, leave a rainbow emoji because I'm snacking on some Skittles. And I will see you guys in my next video. Hopefully it'll be my Goodreads best of 25 so far. Pray for me. I have 4 books to go. One of them's Chunky Boy. 2 of them are highly anticipated releases. So hopefully it goes well. I kick this slump's little butt, and I have a great reading month. And I hope you also have a great reading month. And I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!